Such a pleasure.
Come in, Marion. I was laying odds you'd be up and about.
The lightning that struck the top of the mizzenmast ran down and melted the conductor into white, hot drops. The deckhead burst open and the electrical fluid destroyed me. It surrounded the girl who stood before me with a white line of light.
Mr. Talbot, may I present Marion Chumley?
Poor Marion. She'd been positively prostrate with the mal de mer. Slightest movement, good God, up it all comes.
The Alcyon is lively then, Sir Henry.
So, Captain Anderson. Utmost dispatch is utmost dispatch after all. And your ship?
Oh, steady as a rock, sir. Why, even when she was taken aback, she only put her rail under for less than 10 seconds.
Gentlemen, you're making the poor child quite pale. You will say no more about it. The floor is as steady as a ballroom, and I have seen you happy enough on that.
Captain Anderson.
I believe we are to hold the ball aboard my ship, ma'am, which is even steadier than this.
Anything is steadier than this beautiful, wild thing.
I am certain, beyond a peradventure, that Captain Anderson would offer up his vessel as a refuge for the rest of your journey, Miss Chumley.
No, Mr. Talbot. We're not going to India, we're going to Sydney Cove. Besides, our ship is full of passengers, emigrants, cargo.
Miss Chumley, if you will take passage with us, I will abandon my cabin to you. I shall sleep in the orb or the bilges. I shall guarantee to pace the decks at night. Come, sir, we have an empty cabin. I will move there immediately, and Miss Chumley shall take mine.
To India you must go, Marion. And in Alcyon, too. Come straight in, Janet. Down there. You need not be scared nor say anything. He was only brought in to make up the numbers. I noticed you admiring the deck.
My what? Entirely different from theirs.
I understand you were to give us a recital, Miss Chumley.
Where did you hear such a thing?
You are correct, sir.
Rumour went that she was a prodigy, which word I first discounted. But now,
You made a terrible mess of our feet.
I see that it was no more than the truth.
Prodigy, Mr. Talbot.
Prodigy, Miss Chumley.
The word was wrongly reported to you, sir. Lady Somerset is sometimes kind enough to refer to me as her protégé.
For me, Miss Chumley, prodigy. Ever and always.
We should be thinking. No, sir. No, sir.
Miss Chumley.
You see, this isn't time.
I am dazed.
Kind of thing.
No, bedazzled, dazzled. Have bewitched me already. You must have done so before when we met in Cathay, Tartary, Timbuktu. Where was it?
Mr. Talbot, you've travelled?
No, Sir Henry.
But you... well, I'm sure Marion has not been...
Mr. Talbot is making up a fairy story, Uncle. I'm certain he intended for you not to listen, for it is a great nonsense.
Nonsense? Miss Chumley, cut me to the quick.
I would never be so cruel, Mr. Talbot. And fairy tales are not nonsense to some.
The Alcyon is a flyer to have made such time out of Plymouth. You must have judged what she would carry to a hair, sir.
Well, as far as jib, she was positively snoring. You should have been with us back at Plymouth Sound, right across from Ship Creek. They took us out with a steam tug. Good God, I've never been so astonished in my life.
The smoke! The smoke from that chimney. My coat cloak was quite spoiled by it. Marion said her pillow was black.
Helen?
You did, my dear. Don't you remember the trouble we had with your scalp?
Come, Lady Somerset. Miss Chumley is not a Red Indian.
Very good.
If I may inquire, Sir Henry, what is a steam tug?
Well, Mr. Talbot, is an extraordinary invention. But I swear, nothing but the native genius of our nation could have brought it forth. It is a craft with a steam boiler, the force from which makes great paddle wheels rotate on either beam.
There's too much fire for me. I cannot lighten things. If one should explode, they might set off an entire fleet like tinder.
Well, that's probably right, but they're building a larger one in Portsmouth.
This will be the ruin of real seamanship.
And they make a devil of a mess. But there's no denying they towed us out against the wind in under 2 hours, whereas it would have taken a whole day kedging.
Might not a larger vessel operate on the high seas?
It's possible, Mr. Talbot, but there's not the necessity for it. Once given sea room, a ship may do well enough for herself.
But might one not build a steam warship that would paddle out of the harbor and seek the enemy?
When you come into government, I beg you, accept any post but that of the Admiralty. Here.
But you have not answered Mr. Talbot's question, Uncle. I'm sure he would make a splendid admiral, or whatever it is.
God. If we were to have a steam tug large enough to engage an enemy, we'd need double the crew to keep them clean, let alone feed them with coal.
I'm sure the mechanical genius of the British would overcome such difficulties.
Oh, well, speak up, Captain Anderson. You have as much brain as to be found in the service, I think.
The real objection, if you will have an answer to such a preposterous question, is this. If she is to be a warship, then a paddle wheel on either beam will reduce her broadside. Secondly, during an engagement, if a single ball were to strike the flimsy members of her paddle, she will be rendered uncontrollable.
Well said. Yeah.
We are answered, Mr. Talbot. We are beaten from the field.